Okay, welcome back from break, everybody. Thanks for being with us in our last session. Hello, all. My name is Jessica Lang, and I'm the Associate Director, Center for Career Development at the University of Waterloo. And it's my absolute privilege to be able to moderate today's closing session, a panel featuring four of our fantastic University of Waterloo students. We're in for a real treat as we get to dive into stories from Sean, Daisy, Matthew, and Kennedy, change makers during their work terms across an array of industries. Here's how the session will work. I'll formally introduce one student at a time. That student will share a 3-minute presentation with us, showcasing their problem-solving mindset and providing insights on how they were empowered to drive innovation. I'll follow up with a question or two at the end of each student's presentation. And after we've heard from all four of our students, we'll move into Q&A with all of you. And there certainly will be an opportunity for you to ask any burning questions that you might have. So without further ado, we will be starting with Sean. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sean Benedict. Sean just completed his Bachelor of Engineering in Nanotechnology. Sean was recently awarded the Peggy Jarvie Student Achievement Award from the Cooperative Education and Internship Association for his outstanding work as a software developer in artificial intelligence research at SINTEF in Norway. This co-op work term was part of an ongoing partnership between the Norwegian University of Science and Technology and the University of Waterloo. And I actually have a quote here from Sean's employer. Sean has been outstanding in both the quality of his work and as a person to work with. He tackled every task we threw at him with professionality, curiosity, and competence. The co-op term managed to achieve much more than what was initially planned, thanks no doubt in large part to Sean. The code has not only been cleaned and restructured in a much better way, something that is already of great value to us, but given Sean's skills, we felt comfortable leveraging him to extend the code, develop new functionality, and perform actual scientific research together. This has led to writing a scientific publication that's currently submitted and in review at a prestigious conference. Again, for those not accustomed with research work, I can state that producing results and writing a paper in 4 months is a great achievement. And of course, what a great quote from this employer. So just wonderful to hear from that employer. And Sean, we'll pass over to you. Please take it away with our first presentation.
Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. So my name is Sean, and I have been very lucky to have had many amazing environments throughout my co-ops, and these have helped me to achieve great things. So some aspects that I feel really help me succeed include sufficient time to discuss challenges or possible solutions with my coworkers, a feeling that my ideas are being considered in meetings, and then the opportunity to develop or strengthen skills in fields that I'm interested in. And then finally, a feeling that my work can actually contribute to my team or my company's success. So one of my favorite cultures was during my co-op experience in Norway last year. I worked for SINTEF, which is a nonprofit research organization, and I was doing AI research. Specifically, what I was working on was doing research to see how to predict when AI will be wrong, to help us get a better idea of when we can trust it and when we cannot. I really feel their culture provided a positive and collaborative work environment. For example, there were department ski trips, teams actually eat lunch together, there was cake and belonging, and more ease to collaborate with coworkers and supervisors, and this led to issues being solved much quicker. So in the first few weeks of my co-op in Oslo, I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to contribute because all of these concepts required for this groundbreaking research were complex, and they were actually normally handled by people with a PhD. In the beginning, my supervisors knew that I was an undergraduate student, and they decided to begin by giving me kind of easier tasks in terms of research ability because they weren't sure what I'd be able to accomplish, and they didn't want to overwhelm me. However, they did tell me that if I could complete these initial tasks ahead of schedule, I'd be able to work on much more exciting and challenging projects, and they even gave me an idea of what those projects could be and get input from me as well. I ended up doing a lot of self-study, but more importantly, I made sure to ask a lot of questions to my coworkers and supervisors and have discussions with them throughout my co-op to learn more about the most important concepts for this project. In doing this, I had a better grasp on the material so that I could better contribute But then also in having all of these discussions and talking with people, I noticed some things that could be changed or improved. And I ended up making real differences that were unique and useful in a way that allowed me to contribute to an academic paper that was just presented at the Northern Lights Deep Learning Conference in Tromsø, Norway, earlier this year. I implemented a method that increased accuracy by 16 times and it increased speed by 5 times. Overall, I'm more motivated when I feel comfortable in discussing my ideas and asking questions. And additionally, I really thrive when I feel my input is considered and my work can actually contribute to my success. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll go back to hear my questions.
Thank you, Sean. That was so neat to hear about. I've never been to Norway, but it is on the list, I have to say. I wrote some notes while you were sharing your presentation with us, and you talked about how comfortable you felt asking a lot of questions. And I'm wondering if you can call out for us, what were some ways or some things that were occurring in the environment that helped you feel comfortable asking those questions and kind of get out of your shell a bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's, I mean, you know, I do like asking questions anyways, even when it's difficult. But I felt it was especially easy in this context, because we kind of had a report anyways. You know, like some co-ops, you kind of go and your supervisor eats in their office by themselves, and then you kind of maybe you get to eat with the other co-ops. Maybe there aren't any other co-ops, and you eat by yourself as well. Blah blah blah. You go out to eat somewhere else. But here there was a cafeteria for the department. And being able to like eat with the other people and having these extra reasons to be comfortable speaking with these people informally made me more comfortable to speak with them formally as well. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things. But also, I mean, everyone was happened to be very nice and very professional anyway. So it was a win-win. That's just, yeah, good overall.
Thank you, Sean. That's so great to hear. And it sounds like such a lovely environment to be a part of. I'm so glad you had that experience and that there was really a blend of those opportunities for social connections that helped build rapport and make you feel comfortable to really dive in and engage. It's awesome. Okay, well, hang tight, Sean. We're going to come back to you in our Q&A. We're going to move on to our second student here. Next up, we have Daisy Martin. Welcome, Daisy. Fourth-year psychology student in the Faculty of Science. Daisy worked as a community investment coordinator at the United Way Waterloo Region's communities as part of CEE's Co-op for Community program. Outside of her work, Daisy is a Girl Guides leader and works at the University of Waterloo's Visitor Center. And I too have a quote from one of Daisy's employers here. So Daisy has continued to help improve processes and bring new ideas to the table, largely focused on using technology smarter. She has played a key role in revamping our project management processes for the organization and created and led the organization-wide training to gain buy-in and increase understanding. She's the first Co-op for Community student who has worked with 3 different community organizations, as well as working with United Way. She has shown that her project management and organizational skills are very sophisticated to be able to manage all of this as successfully as she has. The change she has helped to create and put in place will have a lasting impact on our organization. Her professionalism, communication, organization, and project management are well beyond what we would expect in a co-op student. What a lovely quote. Daisy, thanks again for being here. We're so excited to have you with us. Please take it away when you're ready.
All right, thanks, Jess. So hi, everyone. My name is Daisy, and I'm a fourth-year psychology student here, as Jess said. So during my co-op term at United Way Waterloo Region Communities, I had the opportunity to lead a project that ended up having a very, again, long-term impact on the organization, which was creating a project management system using Notion. So at the time when I started my co-op term, there wasn't a centralized system in place for tracking tasks, timelines, or ongoing projects. So when the team brought up the idea of introducing something new, I was invited to kind of like co-create a solution for this. And what made the experience especially meaningful was how collaborative and supportive the environment was. Even though I was a co-op student, my coworkers really trusted me to take the lead, and they were open to my suggestions, encouraged experimentation, and gave me the space to take virtually full ownership of this project. If I ever wanted to learn more about a project or a department's workflow, I was welcome to sit in on meetings and ask questions. I did a lot of research and hands-on testing to figure out what structure would work best for our team. I explored different templates, task tracking systems, and workspace layouts, all while thinking about the day-to-day needs of our staff and how we could make the tool intuitive and useful. Once the system was built, I created and delivered a training session for the entire staff. And I knew that for this to be successful, it wasn't just enough to just build the tool, but people needed to feel confident using it. So the training I created included walking through the structure, showing examples of how to use different features. There was even a little scavenger hunt I made where they had to find pictures of little baby animals throughout our software to make it fun and to get some of that hands-on experience. And then there was also, of course, time for feedback and questions. After the formal training was completed, I made myself available for one-to-one follow-ups. Some staff did still have questions or wanted to walk through their own workflow in more details, and I was happy to support them. I met individually with several team members to help them get more comfortable with the system, adjust settings for their specific needs, or just troubleshoot minor issues. This helped build a lot more buy-in and also made sure everyone felt supported, which was really important to us. This training that I created is now part of the onboarding system for all new co-op students, as well as any new staff members. And the Notion system continues to be used as the team's central project management hub. This opportunity was made possible through the Co-op for Community program, which not only connected me with United Way, but also gave me support and encouragement to take on meaningful work that really aligned with my values. And it made it possible for me to grow my skills in a nonprofit setting while helping create something that continues to support the team there. And I know in the Resources Center, there is a little part about Co-op for Community if you're interested in learning more. For me, this project was also a chance to develop technical skills, but to also grow in leadership, communication, and collaboration. But most of all, I saw how you can learn and contribute when you're in a space that trusts you to take initiative and helps you build the confidence to do so. So, Jess, if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Daisy. So great to hear more about your experience and how that all came to be. I love that you finished off with the word trust. I think it's such an important piece of effective teamwork and knowing that that's really permeating through the ecosystem and in the environment. Earlier in the presentation, I wrote a little quote you mentioned something to the effect of you were invited to co-create the solution. And I was curious, was that an actual conversation that you engaged in with your supervisor, with the team? And did they ask you to do that, or how did that kind of come about? Because I think that's really powerful language.
Yeah, so basically I had done one co-op term with United Way, and then at the end of my co-op term, asked if I could come back for a second term, and they welcomed me back to the team. So it was actually on my first day back of my second term working with them. They were like, "Hey, we have this project. We know from your last term that this is something you might be interested in. We think you have the skills for it. Would you be interested in helping us build this project management system?" And I, to be honest, knew nothing really about project management, but I was like, I'm definitely willing and excited to learn about it. So that's kind of the point where we talked to my supervisor, because the person who was kind of leading this project wasn't my direct supervisor, but talked with my supervisor, made it kind of a key part of what I did that co-op term, as well as working with a number of community organizations. So it was kind of just like very much a group collaborative effort there to get me involved, but then I was very, very happy with the results.
Thank you for sharing, Daisy. Thank you for sharing more of those insights. Okay, we're going to go on to presentation number 3, but hang tight because we'll come back to you in the Q&A at the end. And that's a shout out. If folks have questions, please drop them in the chat as we go, and I'll get to them at the end. So moving on to our third fabulous student here today in this panel. It's absolutely my pleasure to introduce Matthew Stabelski to today's conference attendees. Matthew is a 4th-year management engineering student who has completed 4 co-ops in industries ranging from banking to data as a service, or DaaS. He's currently on his 5th co-op term, working as a data scientist for the NFL team at the Score. Outside of work, Matthew enjoys learning about machine learning and AI, as well as playing rugby and playing soccer. A fun fact about him is that he's lived in 6 different countries. One day, Matthew, I need to better hear the story of that. I know that's what we're here to discuss today, but there are definitely cool stories therein. And similar to our last two students, I have a quote here from one of Matthew's employers. Matthew's contributions in creating the Data Hub will allow ISCD employees to unlock a deeper understanding and new possibilities on their data journey. His contribution is a testament to the power of one individual's impact on a collective vision. So powerful. And we're so excited to have you with us here today, Matthew. So please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So my name is Matthew, and in this presentation, I'll share my experience as a data scientist in the Chief Data Office and Innovation Science and Economic Development Canada, or ISED. So my team in the Chief Data Office was just responsible for developing and deploying data visualization solutions using Power BI. Across the department, various business units approached us seeking guidance on how to collect, pre-process, and visualize their data. The documentation, technical manuals, and best practice guides was scattered in internal repositories that most teams couldn't access. This lack of data democratization caused significant inefficiencies, with teams spending weeks reinventing workflows, waiting for answers, and our office was burdened with manual and repetitive explanations in these meetings. So to address this challenge, my manager, Melissa, and my colleague, Kim Lee, invited me to join their ideation sessions for what would become the Data Hub. They recognized my technical development background and asked me to help flesh out the concept and drive its implementation. Together, we defined the vision and technical requirements, then pitched the idea in a Dragon's Den style pitch competition, where Melissa and I secured the dedicated budget, funding for the project, for which we won merit awards at the government. So with Melissa's willingness to guide me through scope definition and project management, areas in which I didn't really have much hands-on experience, I helped lead user research sessions with stakeholders across ISED to help capture and refine these requirements. From those insights, we organized the work into agile sprints to ensure we could have iterative improvements on the project. I then built an internal web scraping pipeline that continuously harvested relevant documentation from our SharePoint and IntraWeb to keep our knowledge base fresh. Finally, I designed the Data Hub's backend using a RAG, retrieval augmented generation architecture, using Cohere's large language model, which enabled users to pose natural language questions and receive accurate, contextually aware answers. By laying this groundwork, we shifted ISED towards the goals of democratizing data and demonstrating AI's utility. Teams gain direct access to the resources they need to build the dashboards independently, reducing the turnaround times and freeing our data office to focus on higher value work. I was only able to make this impact with my manager's trust and providing me with such great responsibilities and guidance. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll invite Jess back for a question.
Thank you, Matthew. So great to hear more about what that term looks like in action. You mentioned that you were invited to attend the ideation sessions, I think they were titled, and I would love to hear more about that. How did it feel being given that invitation? Were you nervous going into it? How did you prepare at all for them? What was that opportunity like for you at the beginning?
Yeah, well, as an intern and as a co-op, for me, it's like I'm always trying to make an impact at the company I'm at. I'm trying to make sure that they try to give an impact as much as I can. And so with an environment and a manager who is able to, facilitate that and be able to invite you to these meetings and get you really on board and in the nitty gritty of it, it really, as an intern, it's something that excites me and makes me want to work at that company more and more. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Thanks for sharing. Melissa sounds really special. You mentioned that
She's great.
individual.
She's great. Yeah, Melissa's amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Sometimes it takes somebody to see that in us, right? And to build that rapport and offer that mentorship in different ways. Thanks,
Yeah,
Matthew.
I really hope everyone has a manager as great as Melissa.
Me too. Me too. Okay, hang tight. We'll be back with you in a little bit. Okay, we are moving into our fourth and final student presentation. Last but certainly not least, we have Kennedy Taylor with us today. Kennedy Taylor is a fourth-year arts student majoring in legal studies. She received Co-op Student of the Year in Arts in recognition of her dedicated and innovative work integrating AI into healthcare at COES Health. At COES Health, Kennedy's role focused on marketing, and pilot program coordination, aiding with the creation of innovative healthcare solutions. And a quote here from her employer: Kennedy has surpassed all expectations since joining the team. She has proven to thrive in the dynamic startup environment, constantly seeking ways to add value and guide us towards our goals and mission. Her extensive contributions with our 3 inaugural pilots has been invaluable and undoubtedly has helped the company prepare accordingly for our $5 million seed fundraising round this upcoming fall. This funding is essential for our ability to scale business, enhance the way physicians engage with their patients, and ultimately reduce the cost of delivering care. Well, we are in for a treat, I'm sure. So Kennedy, thank you so much for being here with us, and please take it away.
Thank you very much, Jess. So, hello everyone. My name is Kennedy, and I'm very excited to be here with you all today. As Jess mentioned, I worked as a business analyst at Coas Health, which was a very fast-paced tech startup where curiosity was welcomed and taking initiative wasn't just encouraged, but it was expected of its employees. From day one, I wasn't treated like a student. I was treated like a full-on member of the team. And that trust really helped me to step into the ownership of real projects and rather than just simply assisting on them. One of the biggest challenges I had was the opportunity to help solve the lack of structured and scalable customer onboarding processes we had at Coas. Without a really clear system in place, internal teams were often misaligned and customers did not receive consistent communication or support, and that gap was really slowing the company down. So I took ownership of that problem. I spoke with team members across all levels of departments to understand what was missing, documented processes from scratch, and created clear and accessible onboarding materials for both internal use and for all of our customers. I also helped to centralize key information in our internal knowledge base and introduced automation wherever possible in order to make the processes more efficient. Throughout that work, my manager, Maddie, played a key role. She provided me with constant direction and encouragement when needed, but she also consistently required me to complete tasks independently and only come to her with questions as they arose. She really, as a manager, struck the perfect balance between offering guidance when needed and encouraging me to work independently on my own. She created a hands-on environment through tools like Confluence and Jira, where I felt safe to take on risks with the information at hand and ask questions when it was lacking and learn by doing on my own, which all in all built my confidence and decision-making skills. That balance really helped me to grow my leadership and trust within my own skill immensely over the term. And so the result was a huge improvement in how we brought new customers on into the platform. Teams were much more aligned, and the customer experience became much smoother and more professional. And that impact didn't go unnoticed. I was offered an extension to my co-op term only 2 months after being hired, and was later invited to stay on part-time as I transitioned back to school. And so I think what set me apart as a change maker was my willingness to take on initiative in unfamiliar territories. There's not a time that we're not going to be in somewhere unfamiliar with our work, and we need to ask questions and find ways to add value beyond what's just expected of you. I embraced my curiosity and the opportunity to lead solutions and not just point out problems. Overall, it was an experience that shaped how I see myself, not just as a student learning within the workplace, but as someone capable of actually leading change within it. And now I'd like to invite Jess back for some questions.
Thank you, Kennedy. Thanks for sharing more about what was happening behind the scenes. And that very cool experience. I Googled how to say COES, but I clearly got it wrong. So COES, thanks for
Confusing.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Okay, so as I was listening to you, you were talking about it sounds like this brilliant supervisor that you had the opportunity to be mentored by, and you're mentioning this really cool balance that they struck for you. I think you said something about this balance of guidance, but also giving you some space and making sure you knew you could come to them with questions. And I was just curious how that was established. Was it a conversation? Was it sort of you were watching and learning that was their way or their preferred style, or just how that kind of came about so that you felt comfortable to engage that way?
Yeah, great question. I think that the way that the company was actually set up itself played a big role in that, but the way in which Maddie actually assigned tasks to me, I think was the biggest reason because not only did she present me with a plethora of information that I may need, some things that might be useful to me in the future, but she gave me enough resources for me to come to an educated decision and conclusion on my own. So, she gave me things like videos relating to maybe tasks or processes I didn't understand because as I entered into the AI field, I did not know much previously. So she really took on sending me videos, helpful links. Tools like Confluence and Jira were probably the most efficient in helping me to stay organized and actually communicate effectively with her because those things you have to manage your time accordingly. And I think that together, those tools really enhanced my ability to communicate clearly and stay on track.
Awesome. Thanks, Kennedy. Okay, so we are moving into the Q&A portion now. So hang here with us, and I invite all of our students to hop back on video as we get into some questions. So I'm going to toss one out to get us started, and anybody's welcome to answer this question. Maybe we'll, if you want to answer Sean first, we can kind of go in the same order that folks were presenting today. So I'm curious for our students, what advice do you have for the employers on the call today? How might they create optimal workplace conditions to support thriving change makers who are in those co-op roles?
Sure, yeah. So I think again, something similar to what I was saying before of, making sure that your students are comfortable with the like supervisors and other coworkers, and there's so much you can learn not just from your direct supervisors, but from other people in the office. Get everybody to have a rapport with everybody so everybody feels comfortable, and then give opportunities for the student to discuss and like learn and ask questions as opposed to um, you know leaving them completely on their own. But it's also useful,
Thanks, Sean. Sorry, I had some tech difficulties there for a second, but I think we are back on track. Um, Daisy, is there anything you'd like to add to Sean's answer?
I think we've all kind of touched on this within our individual presentations, but again, it's really just building that rapport with students and like making sure again that they do feel welcome, that they're able to speak up. I know that sometimes, like especially at the beginning of the terms, it's a little bit harder for students to speak up because they are going ahead and learning all the processes, learning all just everything that makes your organization work. But just again, making sure that you're really emphasizing that they can ask questions, they can make comments based on what they're learning about, especially like if they have a question about like why you're doing something. That was one thing that I've done during my time is like, why are we doing this? And sometimes like your employer will have a really great answer, and then I go, oh, that's why. But sometimes also it gives the employer kind of that secondary perspective to think about it from another point of view, and maybe it is something they want to incorporate into their own work.
Thanks, Daisy. Matthew, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would just add that I would reiterate on the allowing students to ask questions because just like Daisy said, I also ask a lot of questions during my co-op, like why do you do this? Why do you do that? But creating an environment where you know each other not on just a professional but on a personal basis as well. So like having like some sort of team bonding exercise with the intern, maybe if you're in person, like a lunch, having a lunch out, but really getting to know the student and allowing them to be comfortable enough to ask those questions without seeming rude or something. I think that's a really big thing for employers to understand. Yeah.
Thanks, Matthew. Kennedy, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of the points that are mentioned. I think that another really important thing for employers, of course, is it's very important to ask questions, but I think being really receptive to those questions is a really big thing. Building that rapport and allowing these students to come with an open mind and know that their questions will be valued and welcomed, I think is one of the biggest things. And also, which goes hand in hand with that, I think establishing really clear expectations of what is expected, I think also really helps to mitigate any confusion and allows these students to speak up when needed, but also communicate as efficiently and as timely in as good of a timely manner as they could. So I think that that's also really key.
These are such great points. That the 4 months go so quick, right? And of course, there are 8 month terms sometimes too, but thinking about more of the 4 month piece, it does go quick. And so establishing that rapport early on, setting those expectations, I can see how that really helps folks hit the ground running and really optimize the time that folks have together, which is great. Okay, there are a couple of questions in the chat. This question is, how can I write a job posting that makes students feel comfortable applying, even if they don't check every box? A few panelists said they learned a lot on the job, and I'd love to get that across so students feel more confident in applying. What a lovely question. Maybe we can go backwards this time. Kennedy, if you have any thoughts, sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem at all. I think that that's a great question, and I think the fact that an employer is even asking that in the first place really just goes to show that they're in the right environment and thinking in the right headspace. But I think that making sure that the student knows that their input is what is mostly required for the job and what is necessary, like it's their skills that are required of them, so things like critical thinking, problem solving, time management, those are, skills that are much more important compared to a qualitative resume. So I thinking that making sure those characteristics that are really important in a successful worker should be emphasized mostly throughout it.
Thanks, Kennedy. Matthew, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Any suggestions on job postings?
Yeah, I mean, having putting like a posting about, there being maybe like a happy hour or something, that's always something that got me interested in the posting. But for real, I think that simply declaring explicitly that you don't need all the job requirements, you need most of them in the posting, I think that is something that would, allow and facilitate students to apply to it, even if they don't have everything that's required. But yeah, I think explicitly declaring it would definitely make the student more confident.
Thank you. That's a helpful tip. And I'm hearing what you're saying though about like happy hour as an example, but I think what you're getting at is, how can you share a little bit about the environment and what folks can expect, right? And is there opportunities for some of that camaraderie to be built in the space?
Yeah,
which is
definitely a social bond. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to know that that's welcomed, right? If that's something that helps someone feel, connected in the environment, which helps them work better potentially. Thanks, Matthew. Daisy or Sean, is there anything you'd like to add in terms of job postings?
There wasn't anything specific that I pretty much agree with what Matthew and Kennedy have already said. But again, just really stating that again, you don't need all of the requirements, but also mentioning maybe something like we want to learn and grow with you to further improve your skills, just as an add-on to that sentence is something that I've seen as well, which does make me feel more confident when I'm applying.
Yeah, and then I don't think I heard this already. Maybe somebody said it already, but maybe that like a way to say it would be to come at it from the angle of a willingness to learn. So, kind of talking about we like students that have a willingness to learn so that, we can help them get up to the level where they're ready to contribute as much as they can. And, coming at it from that angle allows it to give it a better connotation than it could be, for example. Yeah.
Yes, all great suggestions. I can also just add from our perspective, that's the team that I support on campus. And whenever my team is having conversations with students about particular jobs that they're thinking of applying to or running some workshops on the topic, we're always encouraging students to give it a try. Don't write yourself off if it's something that's really exciting to you and something that you want to try, even if you don't feel like you're hitting every single piece that the job ad is asking for. So that's sort of our philosophy on it. Okay, there's another question in the chat here, and I think this has been touched on a little bit, but I'll ask it in case anyone wants to add anything. So the question is, how do I encourage co-op students to offer ideas or suggestions early on in their work term? So is there anybody that has any things they'd like to add to this end?
Go ahead, kid.
Sure, yeah, I can add to that. I think it all starts in the environment. You really have to make sure that the employees feel welcome to share their perspective in big things, small things, in meetings, or just on the day-to-day basis. I think it's important to emphasize that fresh ideas are important regardless of what level they're coming from in the business, and it matters to listen to what they have to say regardless of the task.
Is there anything that anybody wants to add? Yeah, Sean?
Yes. I would just say, yeah, I think we might have mentioned this before again, but just making sure to be very explicit. So some students, enjoy when there's a really nice environment, etc., but they may not come out of their shell unless you literally say to them, like, we welcome your input. We want that, different perspective from a student that's more towards the beginning, more still coming at like in the school mindset. They may have some things that, may be a useful second perspective, and just being explicit that you're excited to hear what possible extra things they could give.
Okay, a new question just came in, and I love this question. So I'm going to ask it, and then Daisy, if you would like to answer first, and then Matthew, we can round out the crew here. So the question is, what's the best way to set clear expectations at the start of a term without making it feel too rigid or too strict? Any thoughts, Daisy?
Yeah, so I would definitely say just like during that first initial meeting that like I would have with my supervisor, we would kind of go over exactly what the plans are for the term. And then just having that as kind of like the end point of where I want to be, in 4 months' time or 8 months' time or however long the term may be in the case. All the kind of expectations and everything I need to do to get there, we can kind of build off of that. But having a goal point in mind is kind of what comes to mind for me. And then basing, work expectations and everything based on that. And then, I mean, also in terms of interpersonal skills, those soft skills, that kind of, those kinds of expectations, I think just, I mean, for some students, if it's their first work term, they might need them a little bit more explicitly stated. But I think also, like the other panelists have said here today, just having that overall work environment where everyone is kind of, walking the walk in terms of the expectations at an organization, just being able to see that happen in front of you while you're a student at somewhere working for those 4 months, you'll be able to see exactly what those expectations are of you, whether it be behavior, a dress code, anything like that.
Yeah, that's a really great point, because there's expectations within a particular role or a particular project or deliverable, but then there are kind of cultural expectations, right, within any organization, and so those, some of them I think could be touched on explicitly, but it's a good reminder that folks are also absorbing that en route while they're experiencing the work term as well. So thanks, Daisy. Matthew, is there anything you'd like to add about setting clear expectations? Anything that infamous Melissa did well?
Well, well, she was setting those expectations with a smile on her face. That was the main thing. So I think the main thing is really just trying to make sure the expectations are given in a way that tries to excite the student and not tries to make them feel kind of overwhelmed by it. And so maybe giving past student projects or, providing like, just like smiling, being more comfortable about how you explain these requirements and expectations. I think that's a really big thing. um, yeah, I would say just trying to shift the way that the student thinks about it, and yeah, and also providing them support throughout, saying that you'll provide support. No one's going to be too harsh on you, things like that.
Yeah, you bring up a great point because I mean, it's really intimidating, right? It's intimidating in the midst of those power dynamics to absorb what those expectations are. And so really, I'm hearing you say that having employers be intentional about trying to, but it's important to have clear communication and set those expectations, but trying to showcase it in a positive, upbeat, kind of friendly way, and being open to more clarity arising as time goes on. Students asking questions about that, I think, is important. Thanks, Matthew. Kennedy or Sean, is there anything you'd like to add about that particular question about expectations? Anything that's worked well for you?
Yeah, sure. I think that one of the most important things is employers need to frame that these tasks as a success rather than a set of rules because we're all on the same mission. We're all trying to get somewhere successful for the company. So I think that that's the most important thing, and that will really change the way the student actually views it because we're all trying to make the same thing work, which is work. So having conversations about goals that are open and their preferred method of communication really allows these feedback and these tasks to be done in a manner that is just for the company's growth and the company's success, not like a task that has to get done, which I think really helps to reframe these kids' mindsets.
Thanks for your thoughts, Kennedy. Okay, I all this talk about AI inspired me today to ask Copilot how it would define a change maker. So I'm going to read a definition and then I have a follow-up question to wrap us up here. So Copilot said that a change maker is someone who actively seeks to create positive change in their community, organization, or the world at large. This person is characterized by their ability to identify problems, envision innovative solutions, and take action to implement those solutions. Change makers are often driven by a strong sense of purpose and a desire to make a meaningful impact. They possess qualities such as empathy, resilience, creativity, and leadership, which enable them to inspire and mobilize others towards the common goal. And what a fitting definition, I think, for all of you and the great work that you did in your work terms. My particular question, so I think this definition speaks to some of the intrinsic motivations that students have. And I'm curious, how might employers tease out some of those motivations for students? How might they better understand what a student's sense of purpose is? If you have any suggestions on how they can go about that. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah. One thing that I had previously in some of my co-ops that I really liked was they they kind of start with the expectations and the things where they expect things to go, but then they kind of ask me, what am I interested in? Is there any skills that might be usable at this company that I'd like to learn that wasn't already talked about? And what do I want to do? And, seeing and kind of giving me the openness. And then um, they may also ask me things like, if during the co-op I think of something that I would like to change that wasn't even part of my initial like project or tasks or whatever, I can kind of pitch it to them. And telling me explicitly that I'm allowed to do that, that is, almost desired, not just, a possibility. All of those things make me more excited, and it makes me start looking for where I can make change rather than before. Some students may not even think of that, and this just makes it all that more possible that people will start thinking about it and seeing exactly where they can find the change.
Thanks, Sean. Any other thoughts to close us off?
Yeah, well, with for me, it was creating a system where, the student doesn't think they're in a 9 to 5 kind of job where they're clocking in and clocking out. So, creating an environment where they want to be working and where they love their team and where they love the company, they enjoy the work, they see the impact it's doing. That's all going to facilitate the desire to work and the purpose, right? And then the rest will follow because, we already have those traits. So I would say creating that environment that's conducive to them seeing their full potential is definitely the most important thing. And yeah.
Daisy, go ahead.
Yeah, I can add one thing really quickly just to add on to what Matthew was saying there. I know sometimes, in any job, we have kind of these like menial tasks that, nobody really wants to do, but they need to get done. But just being able to show students, why this is important, how this contributes to the bigger picture of the organization, like Matthew was saying, just having that purpose in their work is something that I think works really well for co-op students so that they know that they are making an impact and actually doing work that matters.
Thank you, Daisy. Inspiring words to close us off. Okay, so that is all the time we have together today. And boy, did it go quick, but I want to thank all the panelists for their deep insights. So please join me in thanking Sean, Daisy, Matthew, and Kennedy for sharing their stories with us and for spending some of their valuable time with us today. I know for myself, I'm walking away with definitely some ideas to bring to my team because I think these are great suggestions, certainly to support co-op students and also any employees in the workplace as well. So I think they span across. And I'm sure that everybody on the call took so much away from all of your insights. So thanks again to all of you. And at this time, I'd like to hand it back to Shabnam to close off the conference today.
Thank you very much, Jess. Thank you, Kennedy, Sean, Daisy, and Matthew for your excellent insights. Many of the themes arising in this panel will resonate strongly with our audience. I'm going to pick out a few that sat really well with me. The first one, foster trust and collaboration, where building informal relationships and open communication encourages trust, teamwork, and accountability. And a supportive environment empowers individuals to ask questions, take risks, fail forward, innovate. The second one was stay purpose-driven and curious, because motivation grows from meaningful work aligned with personal values and clear expectations. And curiosity and continuous learning help drive ownership and results. And then 3, embrace iteration and innovation. I have a very capable colleague who often says, iterate, 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 because progress comes through experimentation, learning from experience, and leveraging technology for ongoing improvement. We are in that age, and the technology train has left the station. To our audience, I trust you found today's sessions valuable. I encourage you to learn more about how you can support students through the 1% co-op project campaign discussed in our branding session. This new initiative can strengthen your talent strategy at Waterloo while supporting the next generation of talent. If you're interested in learning more, please connect with Kate Del Castel, who will be happy to answer questions and illustrate how this entire endeavor is valuable both to our students and your company. If you're looking for information about other ways to engage with CEE, we have many resources available on the event platform in the resource booths. Please do subscribe to the Insights for Impact newsletter. It's a bi-monthly email that highlights the latest research, events, and essential recruiting and hiring information. Well, this concludes the 2025 Employer Impact Conference. All our sessions will be available to watch following the conference. Keep an eye on your inbox for the post-event email with information and access to the session recordings in the coming days. My sincere thanks to all our speakers today, including employers, students, and CEE staff. We appreciate you for sharing your valuable expertise and experiences. Thank you also to the CEE team for coordinating today's conference. I commend you for the effort and dedication it takes to orchestrate such an event. It went off beautifully. Finally, thank you, all of you, for joining us. We trust that you've gained insights and strategies to help you in navigating the future of work through empowering change makers and beyond. With that, do have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you so much.